So today I'm not going to do my live stream. Instead, I'm going to interview a very good friend of mine, Unmani, who I've known personally, I think, since about 2011. We met in Tiruvannamalai, but I've known as a teacher since about 2005. And over the last few years, we've become, I would say, good friends. I just find sharing with her, we share most days, like just really beautiful and really deep and really helpful, and just a really lovely experience. So we got talking and we decided we would try an interview. So yeah, welcome, Unmani.
Well, thank you for welcoming me.
So before, when we were talking, I said that I would sort of ask you questions, but mix it in with personal experiences that I've had with you. So unfortunately, I never came to your talk in 2005, but in 2005, I was living in London, and I think you were living in London at the time, or were you living in Australia?
I think it was, I guess maybe London around that time.
Yeah. And you were teaching at the time. And I remember hearing through the grapevine that there was this female teacher. I'd only really ever been to male teachers. I think I'd been to Gangaji and listened to Gangaji, but that was it. And I think you did a talk on Sundays in London, in Hampstead somewhere, near to where Tony Parsons did his talk, but not at the same place. I don't know if this is correct. I tried a few times to make it to your talks, but something always went wrong. I can't really remember because it was quite a few years ago. And so I didn't ever see you talk until after I was speaking in 2011 when we met in Tiruvannamalai, and I came to a talk of yours. And I really loved it. I thought it was really beautiful. So when you first started teaching, so I'm just going to go off a little bit what we said, but when you first started teaching, would you say that you were teaching in a similar way to what you do now, or would I have experienced something really different to what you taught back then?
I feel like the expression is ever changing, and I feel like when I first started, I was very, in a way, like strictly non-dual, and I'm still, very direct, but now I'm much more including the personal, and I don't see the personal as somehow not included in non-duality. And whereas when I first started, it was like, I just didn't get into the personal stories at all.
Yeah.
Which was great for me then and for people who were coming then. But in my own evolution integration and living of this message, I can't not include the personal anymore, because it's so interwoven. So that's definitely changed. I used to also sit at the front of the room and speak to the audience, and then take questions from people sitting in the audience. Whereas, quite a few years ago, I changed the format because it didn't feel right anymore. And I wanted the meetings to become more intimate. And I didn't want them to be so heady in a way. And so I now have, quite a few years ago, I started to have a chair at the front of the room next to me. And I invite people to come up and have dialogues with me, as well as questions from the audience and general talking. So that's quite different, and it's changed it a lot.
Yeah. I think when I came and saw you in 2011, this is the way you were speaking. You were having people come up. And I remember at the time being really impressed because it felt a lot more vulnerable to do that. Like you were really like intimate with the person when you're speaking to them in that way. Like you're really dealing with the person rather than keeping it more bit more distant with people out in the audience.
Yeah, somehow it's less abstract then. It's really meeting each individual where they're at. Because people hear this teaching, and you never know, when you're sitting at the front of the room speaking to an audience, you never know how they're taking it. It's also what I've learned over the years, that people will take this in all kinds of ways, depending on where they're at and where they've come from. So it's really nice to meet someone where they're at individually, personally, and then I relate my language and everything that I am expressing. I meet them in where they, exactly where they are, and then we can explore together, what is true for them. And somehow that brings it really alive and real. But I know for many people it can also be a bit scary, confronting that level of intimacy. So many people prefer to sit at the back of the room and just keep it abstract, because it's a bit safer like that.
Totally,
But and people still can do that in my meetings, but I really encourage people to come up, because it's such a great opportunity to go deep and to really have one-to-one interaction.
And when you said non-duality earlier, like what do you mean by that? Like, so my experiences with speaking with so many different people is that people's interpretation of non-duality is so vastly different. What's non-duality for you?
Well, I've always had a bit of an aversion to that word, actually.
Non-duality.
Yeah, I actually once I wrote an article about it was called the feminine expression of non-duality, where I spoke about my aversion to that word. Actually, I think it's still, that article might still be on my website, and it's just that when I started holding these meetings, I never had a concept of non-duality. I was just speaking from emptiness, from nothing. I mean, even those words are meaningless. And so then to take on this kind of concept or philosophy or what, and put it on this innocent, open, empty, nothing message, seems, it feels a bit weird. It feels a bit heavy, not heavy, like heady. But on the other hand, you also have to call it something, so that people know what you're doing. So sometimes I use that word, or satsang, it's another word. But I just always feel that all the words are wrong. But we can play with those words.
And what do you in your talks? What do you like, or in your retreats? Like, what is it that you do? What process or what happens? Like, do you start off with a particular subject that you explore with people, or are you pointing to that which is beyond the mind?
Yeah, I mean, in a retreat, which retreats for me are really where, I think I said this to you before, actually, it's where I shine. It's where really I feel like I do my thing, much more than in individual meetings or introductory meetings or even online, because I love to take people through a journey over a period of time where, at the beginning we kind of are still getting to know each other, and then as people relax, we all relax together and the group together relaxes, that then we can feel more vulnerable and take, and safer together, that we can explore through these intimate dialogues. And I mean, sometimes I do speak about a particular subject as like a starting point. Normally I start with an introduction about something, pointing to what is our true nature beyond what we think, who we think we are, and then also perhaps how this is lived in our lives, and how we might have all kinds of concepts about ourselves, beliefs, identities. Sometimes I get people to explore these identities, like to share what kinds of identities pop up for them. Sometimes I call them like little children that play out, and depending on the situations that we're faced in our daily life. So we share about these, and sometimes we even do other exercises just to make these kinds of identities really conscious, so that we can really welcome them and include them, and actually unconditionally love them. Yeah, and you never know where it's going. The retreat can go in all directions, depending on who's there and the moment. It's very spontaneous.
Yeah, when we were speaking personally, I was really touched by your reporting of what retreats are like for you. Like I think it's a bit more what it's like when I do like these talks on YouTube. Like I find retreats a little bit more challenging, but you were expressing like what joy and how much you love doing that. It was really sweet. I can't remember exactly how or why you were expressing that, but I remember being really touched by your love of doing these retreats.
It's I don't really understand it either, but I noticed that I feel so inspired personally during and after a retreat. And I think it creates this field of energy where we all are in love with the truth and with, what is real, and we're all going for it. Everybody there, I think the main thing is that everybody there has made the commitment to come there, and some of them maybe travel from far, and that already in itself is a commitment. And for however long the retreat is, to be there, to show up, and to come up and have individual dialogues, which is also, a commitment each time. And so this commitment to what we are in love with, our true nature, and acknowledging our deepest longing to be free, live fully.
And it's incredibly vulnerable for people to come on retreats, meet new people, and then also to expose themselves and their thoughts and their beliefs as well. Like it's such a intimate experience. Do you find that the people that come to retreat are people that you've already worked with, or are they new people?
It can be both. I have a regular group that I work with. It's called the Love of Truth Community. It's like a subscription that people can join, and we meet twice a month. And so a lot of those, they come regularly to my all of my events. But then I love to have new people as well, because they bring fresh energy, and and you never know kind of where people are coming from and what they might bring. So often the people that I've been working with for a long time, because they already feel safe enough to just dive deeper, they bring the whole group, even the newer people, they bring the whole group deeper and into a safer space. They show, in a way, the newer people that it's okay, it's safe, and we can all do this. So that it really welcomes new people.
And so, and what was your experience like? What was your first retreat you went on, or teachers you? I think it was Delano,
or something,
or something. I'm not sure.
Well, I was with Osho. Actually, Osho was not alive when I went there, but I would say that probably Osho is my first spiritual teacher. But then
that was where you got your name from.
Yes, yeah. My name means it's an Osho Sannyasin name, which means beyond the mind. Yeah, and I've kept that name because I felt first touched, deep, really touched by Osho's message. It's not so much that I feel still affiliated to Osho or something, but it's honoring my own commitment to waking up to the truth, endlessly waking up to the truth. So I kept that name. And then Dolano, she was also in Pune, close to the Osho ashram. So I was with her, and that I would say that was my big wake up call. But then after Dolano, I was with several other teachers, including Tony Parsons, Nathan Gill. Nathan Gill was...
I loved Nathan Gill. I used to go and visit Nathan Gill as well.
Yeah. Beautiful man.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I was also with Gangaji a little bit. Yeah.
And how did you come across Osho? Like, how did you begin to get into this line of thinking?
I went to India for the first time traveling, and it was also a spiritual journey. I didn't really call it that, or I didn't have a concept of what I was searching for, but I was definitely searching. I went to India and I ended up in Goa, and I was partying and having a good time. And then someone at someone's house handed me a book of Osho, and just wow. And they said, it's not. I mean, he was not alive anymore, but his ashram is not so far. Let's go, right?
Yeah.
So went there, and after a month there, I took sannyas and got my new name. And
I can imagine Osho is your first teacher in that way. It's quite mind-blowing. I came to Osho later after I'd done quite a lot of different things, but I can imagine if you come to Osho first and you go to the ashram and it's so open and liberal, it's you can have huge shifts really quickly, because it just breaks down everything you've taken yourself to be. You go in there and there's this free dance. I mean, I think it's changed a lot over the years, but it's just so open and there's so much going on. There's so much deconstruction happening.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing, especially coming with my English conditioning, which is that I was a bit shy and kind of a bit closed, and then everyone's dancing and hugging and and laughing and crying, and it was all about expression. So it really opened a lot for me. And also listening to Osho, although for me he also seemed to kind of talk on all subjects that I didn't always resonate with, but the essential message deeply touched me.
So you used to listen to his talks in the evening, or you read his books? Because I could never make sense of his talks in the evening. I was always like, what did he just say? But maybe that was the point and I really didn't get it at the time. But I always wondered if his books were more sensical or have more of a linear...
No, his books are just transcripts of his
talks.
That's similar. I mean, he kind of rambles a little bit and makes jokes and all kinds of things, but some really he's full of gems. I mean, very wise man of his time. Yeah.
Nice. Just let me go back. I have my first question, which was a surprise question, and the reason I wrote down some questions. The reason I asked this one is because, so did you ever go and visit Ramesh Balsekar in India? Sorry, I just
No,
cut
I
out
don't.
then. No, you didn't. So he was one of my teachers. Like I went and listened. That was the reason I went to India the first time, was to go and listen to him in Mumbai. And one day there was like some people in there interviewing him. I don't know who it was. And the first thing they asked him was, what was your favorite food? And this impressed me so much. I just thought it was so sweet. And Ramesh's answer was so cute. He went, well, pizza, of course. And so I just thought it would be fun. So yeah, my first question is, Unmani, what is your favorite food?
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, I mean, now pizza sticks in my head, but I think it's something to do with because Sky, my son, he's 7, his favorite food is pizza. Yeah, I don't know, like chocolate mousse. I like
Oh yeah.
chocolate.
Yeah, I always say potatoes. Like I love chips. I love mashed potato. Like I just love potatoes. And being English as well, I think it's a bit of an English thing.
Like
But no,
sweet potatoes. Yeah.
that's super. But yours is chocolate mousse. Yeah,
Mousse.
chocolate mousse is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just go back to the questions. Yeah, so one of my questions was, what do you like about being a teacher? Like it's so full on. Like when you, prior to being a teacher to when you become a teacher, you never imagine like what it's like. It's like a teaching in itself to yourself. It's just such a big thing to open your mouth and speak about this subject. But yeah, so my question was, what do you like about being a teacher?
Well, I mean, I don't always like it, but I love it, you know, because in a way, you know, when you sit at the front of the room, you're in the fire, basically, as you were saying, you know, it's a big, deep teaching for yourself. So there might be a part of me that's like, what the hell are you doing? You know, because, you know, I was always really shy. And even to speak out to somebody, you know, to more than one person at a time would have been scary.
Yeah.
And there I am, you know, speaking in front of many people.
Yeah.
And so that little girl in me sometimes sits on my shoulder and goes, ah. So I don't like it sometimes from her perspective, but I deeply love it.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, you know, it's beyond words, you know, like it's the deepest calling.
Yeah.
It's a chance for life to speak through me, and for me to offer myself up to life, right? Use me.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Would you say there's particular or teachings that you've learned from being a teacher, like or maybe not teachings, but anything that jumps to mind which you've learned from being a teacher?
Oh, so much, really,
Yeah.
so much. Because every person that I meet in a meeting or a retreat is a reflection of me in some way. And so I get to see myself in that form, in that way, in that particular configuration of human. And I get to fall in love with parts of myself in different ways. So it's revealed parts of myself that without that, maybe I couldn't have seen it so clearly. I was trying to think of an example. I've gone blank now, but yeah, there's so many. I mean, I find it actually, it's kind of uncanny how it can be that a particular area that I might be looking at in myself, and then I end up having a private session or someone comes up in retreat and they speak exactly about that.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, I find that as well. Oh, and let's see what the answer is, and then
yeah, and then when I speak, exactly, when I end up responding to them, I'm also a participant in the retreat or the meeting, being surprised at what comes out. Yeah, it's very humbling, I would say, being a teacher. It's funny that it seems maybe to some people that being a teacher is like you're somehow superior, or you're up there on the pedestal, but actually I find it really, really humbling and really often humiliating. And yeah, I find it's exposing. Feel often really vulnerable and open. So any kind of trying to be important or know it all or superior in any way just gets exposed in the fire of truth.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you really can't hide. It's the opposite. I mean, some people can, like I could see that there's some teachers that have certain personality that like maybe are lower on empathy or something. Maybe they can have a better escape or hiding.
Yeah, it can also be a perfect escape.
Yeah. But if you're not like that and you're very open and you're very empathetic and you in tune with people that come to see you, it exposes everything.
Yeah. And that's what I most deeply want. You know, if there is that little girl on my shoulder that's like, no, you've got to hide. Actually, I'm like, yeah, it's okay, don't worry, it's all right, everything's fine, it's all safe. And then bleh, here I am,
Yeah, and you can't just suddenly press pause, when you're teaching. I mean, sometimes I might say I need a moment, and just like shut my eyes and have a pause, but you can't pause it. It's like it's live.
Yeah, and people are looking for any sniff of anything not true, which is exactly what I want. I want to be to have that reflection also.
Yeah, and they're constantly pushing the boundaries, like, can I trust you, can I trust you? Yeah, we could talk for ages about being a teacher. It's nice. I mean, this is something I really appreciate about our friendship, is that we can share all of this together and reflect on it and expose things about what's happened to us in retreats or sessions.
Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah. So with the teaching and with the awakening, or whatever we call it, what do you think's changed in your life? That's quite a big question, because how can you mark it? It's like, in some ways it's a not very accurate question, but what do you feel like's changed in you or in your life?
Well, I mean, first of all, as you said, like it's a hard question to answer. You can't. I don't feel like I had one particular point where I had this massive shift. I mean, I know some people do, but because as a child, I always knew this, knowing, this truth. And it didn't get forgotten as I grew up. So actually what I was searching for was, well, first of all, how to be in the world now, with this, because I didn't have a reflection as I was growing up of, that this is it, the truth. I thought that actually that there was something wrong with me. So I was searching for confirmation that I'm okay, that there isn't something wrong with me. I couldn't then have put that into words, but that's, looking back, that's what I was searching for. And so when I was with Dolano in particular, also Osho, but Delano was just so direct. I had this big confirmation that actually what all these spiritual seekers are searching for is what I've always known. And that big confirmation for me was the waking up. It was like, yes, you're okay. You know, this is it. This is right. And then it was about how to live in the world with this. So I think like what's changed, well, so much has changed, of course, because we're always changing and evolving. Is how it's become much more of a lived experience in a daily way. And not that I do anything or have done anything, but it's integrated itself over the years, from being in a way to kind of escape this world, this human experience, to escape into this kind of emptiness, nothingness. But now, especially being a mother, you can't escape really, especially as I'm a single mother now. So this it really brings you to the ground, and so then it's been just daily experience is always known to be in that non-duality, if we want to call it. There's not a separation from, there's nowhere to hide, basically.
That's what I really enjoy sharing with you, or that's why I really enjoy sharing with you on a one-to-one basis, is I feel like you're at a point where everything is about truth. And what that does in a relationship is I feel like I can express anything to you, and that you can hold that, not express as in being abusive to you, and but expressing if I have an issue, or expressing my thoughts about something, even when they're really uncomfortable and they're not the necessarily peaceful way of being. It's like old thoughts or dysfunctional thoughts. I feel like I can express it to you, and you can really hold that. You don't take it personally, or if there is anything being taken personal, then you can express that back to me, and it completely profoundly changes relationships. I feel like it's just so safe sharing with you, like I'm just seen. I'm seen, and if I'm not feeling like I'm seen, I can say that, and then I'll be seen. It's really lovely.
Yes, I love that kind of communication. That's what my heart and it just loves that. And all the games that get played in most relationships or relating is tiring and difficult, challenging to navigate. So because we're all longing to be seen, to see and be seen, in whatever messy stuff is here, because it doesn't have to be all sweet and pretty. Isn't. Even if we want it to be. So when we can actually admit that and go, here, this is what's here, then there's such freedom with that.
And space to be ourselves.
Absolutely.
Whatever that means, that's such a big thing.
Moment ourselves in this moment.
Nice. So I just I feel like naturally it begins to come to an end, but the last thing is it's maybe a little bit weird, but it's something along the lines of maybe you can change it how it fits better for you. Is so people listening to this talk, they're obviously interested in non-duality and interested in being more authentically themselves and like being more free in their day-to-day life. And is there anything that you would recommend, or any words of wisdom you want to leave people with on that line? It doesn't have to be like recommend going and doing this practice or that practice, but anything you want to say around that.
Yeah, I would say follow your deepest longing.
Yeah.
It's really about longing. I know for myself, like as a teenager, I have a memory of myself. I was kind of a goth in those days. And
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I used to wear this thick black makeup, really depressed as well. And so one day I was just so depressed, and I had this such deep longing for freedom, and I was crying, and I had all this black makeup like pouring down my face, stinging my eyes as well. And I just remember sinking to my knees and just like praying. I didn't know, actually, I didn't have a concept of who I was praying to, but just like, show me the truth. Like, what the hell is going on here? You know, and I remember in that moment actually kind of making, in a way, a deal with life, that I'm willing to sacrifice everything that isn't true for the sake of truth, of what is real. And this is how I've continued to live. And in my experience, life honors that.
Yeah.
You know, not always in the way that you'd like. Of course, it can be extremely challenging, but it's always about, you know, what is true and following my deepest longing. And it's not about like a final goal where one day I'll get it, but by just following that longing, it's actually about a love of truth and love of living this truth moment to moment, no matter what comes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it's like the longing always to come home.
Yeah,
like it's just always there in all of us, is that longing to come home. Yeah, that's so beautiful. I so appreciate sharing with you. This is the first interview I've ever done, and it was surprisingly easy. At the beginning, it was a little bit awkward finding the flow, but as we got into it, I began to feel I found my flow a bit better, and I think you did as well.
Yeah. It was lovely.
Yeah, really sweet.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And just I feel like quite blissed out now. I feel like there's this just love that's arising, like on the human level, on the absolute level. On the human level, I really love Unmani, the character, and then on the absolute level, there's this resonance that's happening as well. That's super sweet.
Yeah. It's mutual.
Yeah.
Mutual. Yeah.
Okay, well so I just end it now for we won't end Unmani, but I'll end it now for the people on YouTube. Yeah, thank you for listening. And you can find Unmani on her website. What's your website? I'll link it below. It's Die to Love.
die-to-love.com.
Yeah. And I'll link that below. And is there any events or books you would like to recommend coming up?
Well, I think you're going to put this out just after my retreat, but I will hold I haven't got dates yet on my website, but there will be a 10-day retreat in Portugal. Nice. In probably about this time next year, actually. And I'd hold regular online events, webinars on different themes every month.
Yeah.
And
so they can subscribe to your newsletter on your website.
Yes.
And they'll get the
about things.
information.
Join the Love of Truth community.
Oh yeah, as well.
Yeah.
And I think you've written 4 books as well.
Yes. Yeah, I Am Life Itself, Die to Love. No, 3 books. 3 books. The Courage to Come Alive is the 3rd one, and that is almost published.
All right.
Very soon it will be published, so look out for that.
Yeah, nice. So I'll put all that in the box below, and then you can and you've also got a YouTube channel as well, and I think Instagram or Facebook. I'm not Facebook, I think.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, both that they can follow.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much, Unmani.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Lisa.
really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And bye to everybody watching.